Hello and welcome to Guidance Review. I'm David Pudwill, and today we're going to be talking about FDA's guidance document on acceptance review for de novo classification requests published in September 2019. Three key takeaways from today's video are 1, the de novo acceptance review policies and procedures, 2, de novo refuse to accept principles, and 3, the checklists used for acceptance review by FDA. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So if we pull up the guidance document landing page here, we can go down, we can download the final guidance document, which I've done. We can read the Federal Register notice, and we can head over to the docket. So here's the Federal Register notice. There's usually some interesting information here if you want to go ahead and take a look. It'll give you the number of page views and some information and background here, and a little bit of a table that'll give you some more detail. If we head over to the docket, we'll see that regulations.gov, because this is Tuesday or a Thursday, we're looking, at least when I'm shooting this video, we're on the beta site. And we can scroll down, we can see a summary, dates, addresses, and some other details here in the docket. And some more information here. If we head over, though, to the comments, we'll see that there are 3 comments. This is for the 2017 document that was published. We have comments from AdvaMed and from the Bridge Coalition, as well as from Stacy Backlund. And here, if I pull this up, this is an interesting tidbit of information for you. So this was posted on July 1st, 2019. And here we see some detail that FDA has gone into where they review the comments and then provide FDA's response. So here, let's say for comment 1 regarding phrasing, FDA noted that they do not agree with the proposed revision. And here for comment 2, again, FDA says we do not agree with this comment. For comment 3, again, we do not agree with these commenters. For comment 4, FDA declines to make the change, as they say these are important administrative elements. For comment 5, FDA says we do not agree with the commenter's description. And for comment 6, here FDA again says we do not agree with the suggestion. And then for comment 7, here there's a comment about clinical studies, and FDA gives a little bit of an explanation for why they disagree, that additional revision to this element is necessary. And again, for comment 8, they do not agree. For comment 9, they decline to make this change. For comment 10, they have not made changes based on this comment. And for comment 11, FDA says we consider the materiality standard that the commenter proposes to be the fundamental basis for the acceptance checklist, and elements requested in Appendix A are required and applicable. And then in terms of 12, FDA says we do not believe that revisions are necessary in response to this comment. And so that gives you a summary of a little bit of their thinking if you read through it in terms of why they disagree with some of the comments that are made. But you'll notice in a lot of these guidance documents that the number of comments that FDA agrees with versus the number of comments that FDA disagrees with, you'll find they disagree with a lot of the framing and some of the detail that's included in the comments from a number of submitters. So, and here FDA has spelled out the burden estimated for collecting the information here. And with that, we can go ahead and get into the actual guidance document. This is the acceptance review for de novo classification requests. It's a 33-page long guidance document. And for questions, you can go to DICE, or for CBER regulated devices, you can contact the Office of Communication, Outreach, and Development. And there are some phone numbers here. And this guidance document is specifically for the Center for Devices and Radiological Health and the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. So here we get into the preface. And if you want to make a public comment, you may submit electronic comments and suggestions at any time for agency consideration. And if you want additional copies, you can request them from CDRH here or from CBER here. And in terms of the table of contents, we have some detail around FDA's actual guidance, and then there's the appendices, which include the checklist itself. And here, in terms of an introduction, the purpose of this document is to explain the procedures and criteria FDA intends to use in assessing whether a request for an evaluation of automatic Class 3 designation, that's a de novo classification request or de novo request, meets a minimum threshold of acceptability and should be accepted for substantive review. Focusing the agency's review resources on complete de novo requests will provide a more efficient approach to ensuring that safe and effective medical devices reach patients as quickly as possible. Moreover, with the enactment of the Medical Device User Fee Amendments of 2017, FDA agreed to performance goals based on the timeliness of reviews as well as guidance that includes a submission checklist to facilitate a more efficient and timely review process. Acceptance review therefore takes on additional importance in both encouraging incoming quality applications from de novo requesters and allowing the agency to appropriately concentrate resources on complete applications. In terms of the scope, the information presented in this document is intended to provide de novo requesters with transparency regarding the types of information FDA believes are necessary to conduct a substantive review for a de novo request. And to enhance consistency, the document provides FDA staff with a clear, consistent approach to making accept or refuse to accept decisions on de novo requests. And the acceptance review policy does not alter the process by which devices are classified. As mentioned above, the purpose of this guidance is to explain the procedures and criteria FDA intends to use in assessing whether a de novo request meets a minimum threshold of acceptability and should be accepted for substantive review. FDA recognizes and anticipates that the agency and industry may need up to 60 days to perform activities to operationalize the policies within this guidance. That's long past. If all criteria necessary to meet minimum threshold of acceptability for de novo requests as outlined in this guidance are not included in a de novo request received by FDA before or up to 60 days after the publication of this guidance, CDRH staff does not generally intend to refuse to accept. So this was sort of an interim period that was applicable. FDA staff will conduct an acceptance review of all de novo requests based on objective criteria using the acceptance checklist, see Appendix A, to ensure that the de novo request is administratively complete to permit a substantive review. They expect that all administrative elements identified as acceptance items should be present or a rationale should be provided for those elements determined by the requester to not be applicable. To aid in the acceptance review, it is recommended that requesters complete and submit acceptance checklists with their de novo requests that identify the location of supporting information for each acceptance element. And here, the acceptance review should be conducted and completed within 15 calendar days of FDA receiving the de novo request. An acceptance review will only begin for de novo requests for which the appropriate user fee has been paid and a validated e-copy has been received. So make sure that you get those in if you're going down this route. The acceptance review will be conducted on original de novo requests and responses to acceptance review communications, but not supplements or amendments submitted in response to requests for additional information after a de novo request has been accepted for a substantive review. FDA staff should assess whether the de novo request should be accepted by first answering the preliminary questions below and then verifying that the de novo request contains all the information identified as RTA items in the acceptance checklist. The purpose of the acceptance review is to assess whether a de novo request is administratively complete, which helps ensure that it includes all the information necessary for FDA to conduct a substantive review. Here, FDA notes that interaction during the RTA reviews is dependent on FDA staff's determination that outstanding issues are appropriate for interactive review, and that adequate time is available for the requester to provide supporting information and for FDA to assess responses. And then just some details about what would constitute a refuse to accept designation, and how a de novo requester may respond to the RTA notification, providing the missing information. A new de novo request and new user fee are not necessary, and it is not necessary to resend the entire de novo request unless FDA notes otherwise. So this would be major deficiencies in the submission. Please just basically just try over from scratch. But usually it's just going to be those missing elements identified. But if you fill out the checklist in advance on your own, hopefully you will be accepted. If a response to the RTA notification is not received within 180 days, the date of RTA notification, FDA will consider the de novo request to be withdrawn, and the de novo request will be closed in the system. Upon receipt of the newly submitted information, FDA staff should conduct the acceptance review again, following the same procedure within 15 calendar days of receipt of the new information. And if the de novo request is still found incomplete, FDA staff should notify the contact person and provide the new checklist indicating the missing items. When a de novo request is accepted, FDA staff should electronically notify the de novo request contact person that the de novo request has been accepted and begin a substantive review of the de novo request. If FDA does not complete the acceptance review within the acceptance review period, that is within 15 calendar days of receipt, the de novo requester should be electronically notified the acceptance review was not completed and the de novo request is under substantive review. FDA may request any information that may have resulted in an RTA designation during the substantive review. And once a de novo request has been accepted, FDA may ask for relevant information during the substantive review that may have been unintentionally overlooked during the acceptance review. And then a little bit of a detail here about the FDA review clock. Until you have the e-copy with user fee paid, the review clock doesn't start. Once you have a valid e-copy and you've paid your user fee, then the review clock will commence. However, if the de novo request is designated RTA, a little bit of confusing language here, but the clock will start when your submission is complete. So when you respond to the request for additional information, that receipt date will be your new start date in terms of FDA's clock. If your original submission is accepted, then that is the start date once you have that valid e-copy and the user fee paid. And otherwise, it will be that most recent date when the last information was submitted to DCC, if that information is found acceptable within 15 calendar days, or if it's not reviewed within 15 calendar days, then it's automatically accepted. And then here, in terms of notification of acceptance review result, the de novo requester should receive an electronic notification of the acceptance review result within 15 calendar days of DCC receipt. That is, that the de novo request has been accepted for substantive review, that the de novo request is not accepted for review, or that the de novo request is now under substantive review because the acceptance review was not completed. And this will also serve to identify the FDA lead reviewer assigned to the de novo request, because that's who this communication is going to come from via email by FDA's automated systems. So here we note that the RTA designation may occur on any day prior to the 15th calendar day, DCC receipt. However, if the RTA review was not conducted, that will be sent on the 16th day by the system. And here the completed checklists are considered part of the de novo request administrative file and will not be posted publicly. And in terms of refuse to accept principles, in order to use this guidance appropriately, FDA staff should review the following basic principles regarding FDA's review policies and procedures. Acceptance should not be based on a substantive review of the information provided in the de novo request. It is important to make the distinction between the acceptance review and the substantive review. The acceptance review is conducted to assess whether the de novo request contains all the appropriate elements as identified in the acceptance checklist in order to begin a substantive review. In assessing whether a de novo request should be accepted, submitted information is not evaluated for adequacy to support granting the de novo request. The acceptance checklist is a tool to ensure that the de novo request contains the necessary information to conduct a substantive review. That is, FDA should not refuse to accept a de novo request if information is present but inadequate to support granting the de novo request. The evaluation of the quality of the content occurs within the substantive review once the de novo request has been accepted. And FDA staff should determine whether the requester provided a justification for any alternative approach. The de novo requester may provide a rationale for why any criteria in the checklist are not applicable to the device. It is FDA's expectation that each item in the acceptance checklist will be addressed either by including the requested information or providing a rationale for why it is not applicable or why there is a deviation. FDA will not consider a given criterion in the checklist to be present if the de novo request fails to include either the information requested or a rationale for omission or deviation. If a justification to omit certain information or for taking an alternative approach is provided, FDA will consider the adequacy of that justification or alternative approach during substantive review of the de novo request. See Section 6 below for examples and further explanation. Then we get into the checklist. We've got some preliminary questions. And here, within 15 calendar days of receipt, FDA staff should answer the preliminary questions below. And if responses to the preliminary questions and subsequent consultation with the center personnel identified below indicate that the de novo acceptance review should not continue, then the CDRH lead reviewer or the CBER regulatory project manager should promptly inform the de novo review team and notify the requester. The preliminary questions are: is the product a device or a combination product with a device constituent part subject to review in a de novo request? 2, is the de novo request with the appropriate center? 3, if a request for designation or RFD was submitted for the device or combination product with a device constituent part and assigned to your center, identify the RFD number and confirm the following. Is the device or combination product the same as that presented in the RFD submission? Are the indications for use for the device or combination product identified in the de novo request the same as those identified in the RFD submission? There's some detail here around what to do based on the answers to those questions. And number 4, is the de novo request for a combination product that contains as a constituent part a drug that has the same active moiety as an approved drug with exclusivity as described in 21 U.S.C. 503G, 5C, Roman numeral 2 to Roman numeral 5, section 503G, yada, yada, yada. And what to do based on the answer to that question. Is the device type eligible for de novo classification? And here FDA notes that they do not anticipate that de novo requests for the same device type from different requesters will frequently be under review concurrently. However, that has happened, and we've seen FDA come out with reviews simultaneously of some of these kinds of submissions that ended up together for one reason or another. And number 6, is there a pending pre-market notification 510K or pre-market approval PMA application for the same device with the same indications for use? And if so, then you'll have to figure that out, or FDA will have to figure that out. And 7, is the requester subject to the application integrity policy? So this is a very bad list to be on. So this is for a handful of companies who have been providing bad information to FDA. Think fraud. And then in terms of the checklist acceptance review, there are organizational elements, and these are generally recommended. I would suggest that you include these. And it could result in an RTA if the de novo request is so disorganized that FDA cannot locate RTA items needed to classify the subject device, or if it's so poorly written that RTA items on the acceptance checklist submitted cannot be understood. The elements of a complete de novo request. Part B, the objective criteria in the acceptance checklist outlines those elements that are essential to FDA's substantive review of the de novo request and classification of the subject device, applying the checklist of RTA items. Using the acceptance checklist within 15 calendar days of receipt, FDA staff should answer each question for the element identified as RTA items. For those items that have an option of yes, no, or not applicable as an answer, the item should receive an answer of yes or not applicable for the de novo requests to be accepted for substantive review. For any element that offers more than one option to be accepted for substantive review, FDA staff should indicate whether the de novo request has addressed one of the options for acceptance. Elements marked as not applicable. The acceptance checklist is intended to contain elements necessary for FDA substantive review of the wide range of medical devices. All such criteria may not be pertinent to a particular device, and if it's not applicable, then FDA should select not applicable for that element. For instance, if the de novo request contains no clinical data, FDA should select not applicable for that item. And then in terms of the adequacy of information, in order to make the checklist criteria objective for each RTA item, FDA should consider only the presence or omission of the elements or a rationale for the omission of the element or use of an alternative approach during acceptance review. It is likely that FDA staff will encounter scenarios where information is provided but is incomplete or inadequate. In such instances, FDA staff should answer the question for the respective item as yes, but may communicate the inadequacy or request additional information during the substantive review. For example, the requester may have provided summary information for performance testing. However, during the acceptance review, the reviewer may note that the results of a particular test may not be sufficient to determine if the test adequately mitigates a risk to health, and additional justification would be needed. So the performance testing criterion would be marked yes on the checklist, but additional information could be requested in the substantive review. For elements marked no, for any acceptance criterion designated as no, FDA intends to provide an explanation to describe the missing elements if needed. This explanation is particularly important for a criterion in which it may not be immediately apparent to the requester what necessary information specifically is not present. And in terms of combination product administrative items, there are some details here. If your de novo is a combination product, I recommend you take a look at this in terms of constituent parts that are approved drugs. And then the recommended content checklist. Ideally, you would include the purpose here. While it's not considered in the RTA process, de novo requests without the recommended information may require additional time to conduct the substantive review, may be placed on hold to request additional information to complete the substantive review, or may be more likely to receive a decline decision. And here, one of the items FDA would like to see is prior submissions relevant to the de novo request under review. And you should detail that. The FDA says here specifically you could identify that on the CDRH pre-market review submission cover sheet, or you could include that in your cover letter. And then we get into the Paperwork Reduction Act content, and then we have our acceptance checklist for de novo classification requests. So here are the preliminary questions we went through, and then we get into the organizational elements here, and you should identify the page number if applicable for each of these items. That's really going to help FDA, and if you have anything that's marked no, then make sure that you chase that information because FDA will come up with that. And you can pre-fill this out and then submit that with your submissions. What a number of companies do for 510K and these de novo submissions is just pre-fill out this checklist, identify what page you believe you provide that information, and presumably yes or not applicable. And that'll help FDA doing their review so they don't miss anything that you did definitely provide. So pre-filling out this kind of a checklist does help the FDA reviewer. And then here's some more checklist pages, and that's the end of the guidance document. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Again, 3 key takeaway points for today's video. 1, de novo acceptance review policies and procedures. 2, de novo refuse to accept principles. And 3, the checklist used for acceptance review by FDA. Hopefully you found today's video informative and useful. And please like, subscribe, and provide your comments. We rely on your feedback to improve our content and make sure that we're addressing things that matter to you. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.